So where does soft or CEL shade for more realistic shading? Understanding this choice is based on proximity, shape, and texture, right? Number 1, proximity. I'm gonna need you all to do a little experiment for me. Turn on the flashlight for me. If you are sitting at a desk, if you have a surface near you, put the hand down on whatever surface you have the flashlight going over, right? So if you're on a desk, put your hand down on your desk, put the flashlight over top of that. Notice how sharp that shadow is. Notice how you can see the perfect outline of your hand. Now, bring your hand closer to the flashlight. Slowly bring it closer. A, notice how much bigger that shadow's getting. B, notice how much softer the edges of that shadow is getting. Notice the difference in that shadow as you get closer to your flashlight and get closer to your surface. That is the proximity of the objects next to each other. And that changes the shape of your shadow and how soft or how harsh it is. So how close are these objects to each other and how close is the object to the surface? So if the object is closer to the light source and farther away from each other, then that shadow will get larger and fuzzier. If it is closer, if the two objects are closer to each other, that shadow is going to be a lot sharper. If you've ever had, another example of this is if you have ever had like the sun out one day and there are just kind of intermittent clouds. If you've ever had a cloud pass over the sun, notice how like soft and slow and gradual that shadow happens, right? That's because the cloud is so far from the surface and much closer to the light source. But it's far away enough from the light source to the point where it will still cast a shadow. It's also large enough. This is why airplanes don't cast shadows. So form. This one's kind of obvious, right? A harder edge equals a harsher shadow. A softer edge equals a softer shadow, right? If we've got a cylinder versus a cube, does that necessarily mean that their cast shadows will be harsh? No, of course not. It's just the shadow that is on them that will be hard or soft. Because if we've got a shadow on the inside of this cylinder, it's going to be blended into the side here because that side is curved. This side is curved, so it'll be much more gradual as it comes closer to the front with the light source. By comparison to the cube, which is all just harsh edges, so there is no gradual shape to be had. So let's say we have a finger, right? A finger is more of a gradual curve. Obviously, no, our fingers are a little bit more curved. Our hands are a little bit more curved, so those shadows are going to be a little bit more soft. It won't be as soft as, say, like a perfect cylinder, but it will be far softer. We had this kind of coming under here. It is a soft transition. It's not super, super soft, but it is soft. But then let's say we instead have clothing folds. Clothing folds are like a harsh, it's like an accordion almost. And then in this case, where it kind of folds in on itself, you might use a much harder, harsher shadow because of these folds. But in areas that are a little bit smoother, you might actually bust out something a little bit softer because of that gradual change. And this is a good example. Clothing is a good example of where you might blend the two. But on these like harsh shadow edges, 100% you will use, or these harsh like clothing folds, 100% you will use a harsh shadow. Is it better to shade with black or a dark purple and blue? Neither! Depends on what your light color is. If you have whatever light color you have, your shadow will be the complementary color of that, working off of the RGB spectrum, not your RYB. So if you are working with like a light yellow, if you have like a yellow color for your light, then you're gonna have like a bluish shadow. Is light coming from the top? Yeah, so we're gonna say that the light's coming from up here. I didn't bother with the hand. By the way, this video is part of a larger series dedicated to shading techniques. I'll link the other videos as well as the original live stream in the description below so you can dig a little deeper. How do we shade the light sources? They do have shades. Hey, fun fact, they don't have shadows. If it is emitting light, it doesn't have shadow. It'll have shadow when it turns off, because then there'll be a different light source. But if it's the light source itself, it doesn't have a shadow because it's light. Do you shade the sun? I rest my case. All right. If you're talking about the bulb itself, then no. If we're talking about the lamp shade, then it probably might have a little bit, but oh, fire has a shadow? Fire does not have a shadow. Fire causes shadows. Yeah, if you light a match in a dark room, everything will have a shadow except for the flame. Exactly. The flame itself, here's the thing, is when people say, oh, the light source has shadow. The bulb of a light bulb does not have shadow. The base of the light bulb does, because it's not emitting shadow. If you light a match, the flame does not have shadow. The match stick does. Like the fire does not cast a shadow. It's the object that the fire is being held on that casts the shadow. Texture. Right, so let's say that we've got metal first. Metal is practically just a cell shade. Like, there's almost nothing, no proper, like, shading you'll have to do with metal. Or no proper blending. Like, you can do a little bit, but really there isn't much you gotta do because of how, like, reflective metal is. It's like there might be a little bit of bounce here and there. There's gonna be a really harsh, reflected shadow. That metal is gonna be really shiny. Those shadows are gonna be really harsh. Don't worry about blending it in too much. Right, skin, on the other hand, is not as reflective. It will have a bit of a softer edge to it. Of course, it'll still have bounce light. It'll still have that kind of deal, right? But it will not be as harsh, not in the slightest. Right, you'll still have... Actually, there should be more halftone up here. Right, skin is a little bit softer. And then fuzzy carpet. Let's say that we've got fuzzy carpet is one that like diffuses like crazy. It's like if we've got this whole texture going on, we've got like our light bits. Our lightest bits are right up here. And then it just slowly gets a little bit darker, right? So it diffuses that light a lot. It's at this point where like if you're doing something like fuzzy carpet, don't even worry about, like, trying to get every single little particle here. I'll show you what a fuzzy carpet looks like. I had to do it for last year in university. He recommended that I do a fuzzy carpet. So at that point, right, just draw in the little bits and bobs here and there, and you're all good to go. You don't need to worry about making that carpet crazy intense, right? Just a little bit here, but you can actually see the different shadows that I use, right? There's a bit of a softer one right here. I like to keep my brush strokes in, by the way, so it's rare that I'll actually use the soft brush unless I'm trying to be really fast. You can see a little bit of this shadow going on here that I tried my best on the carpet. The softer shadows of the skin down here. It's actually a little bit harsher up here. I got like slightly better at shading as the years went by. I feel like I've kind of plateaued a little bit, but then you can see like the cell shaded ones where I just decided to keep all of the harsh edges in here. No need to worry about soft shading at all, right? Everything is just a hard edge. I do still kind of like this piece. I like the layers of cell that I added on this one. So depending on how much the texture of an object reflects or diffuses light, the shadow may be softer or harder. So metal, very harsh, very reflective. This one diffuses it a little more, then this one diffuses it like crazy.
Videos like these wouldn't be possible without our awesome patrons and YouTube members who help our mission of making arts education free and accessible for everyone. Become a member today and unlock cool perks like exclusive chats with our creators, access to class recordings, and critiques from instructors. Join a virtual class in seconds and learn live from professional artists. Enjoy weekly assignments, individual guidance, and real-time feedback on your artwork so you can create like a fearless illustrator. If you learned something new, please like and share this with a fellow art nerd. If you love receiving quality and free arts education, subscribe. Here's a couple other videos you can check out next.